Hello, good evening, and very warm welcome to the session on increasing your productivity at the workplace. A few changes, and as you might see on the screen, we have a new trainer with us today. I'll introduce him later, but first of all, Usman, who's our trainer from yesterday, he unfortunately got engaged in some professional, work at his organization, because of which he regretted he could not continue. We will miss him, but nevertheless, things must go on. We considered the option of rescheduling the events, but ACC's commitment to you is that we're going to deliver uninterrupted, valuable content for you, which is going to help you reach the six digits mark. So Khurram is an experienced trainer as well. I mean, some of you might have already attended his trainings. When I introduce him, you will understand, how relevant he is to today's event, today's discussion. Khurram has various qualifications. So Khurram just told me he's a data analyst, by the way, and a computer science master's and a master's in philosophy, and various other qualifications. But his speciality is office applications. I know he's smiling, and he does that quite a lot, but I'm sure you're going to enjoy this session with him as well, as much as you did yesterday. But we are going to be very fast paced today. Okay, so that is very important. Yesterday, unfortunately, there was a lot of time spent on the PowerPoint presentation that we were running, and trying to understand the content. And then we started with H lookup and V lookup, and a few further functions from there. Khurram is going to almost start from there once again. He's going to do a very quick recap of 5 minutes only, about 5 or 10 minutes, Khurram, if you want to take some more time, of VLOOKUP and
Not more than
HLOOKUP.
that.
Yeah, and we're just going to very quickly look at some glitches that we normally face while doing the matching, either using VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, and then we are very quickly going to jump over to our next subject. Um, we will have to, because of this change, unfortunately, increase another session on Microsoft Excel. So previously there were 3 sessions, but because Khurram has some more ideas to share with you, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy further, we are now going to have a fourth session on Excel as well. So Khurram's session today is the second one, and then the third one, and then a fourth one. After which we will do Microsoft Access, because quite a few of the concepts are related. So, for example, relationships between tables and databases. So that's relevant, related, and that after that we will jump on to PowerPoint, and then in the end we will do a session on Microsoft Word, which I'm going to lead myself. Um, very quickly about PowerPoint as well, we are not going to talk about the features of Microsoft PowerPoint. We are going to talk about how to convey the sense of what you want to say through a presentation, how to avoid texty slides, how to come up with infographics. What does the world want to look for when you're asking for a presentation? And today's session, when we're talking about dashboards and reports, etc., this is something that we will also take to our Microsoft PowerPoint session as well. um, Straight after this, we are going to jump to Power BI. That's going to be next week. And for Power BI, once again, we will ask Khurram Khan, who's an expert again in the subject, to come in again and take us through Power BI. So that's what the plan is like. I hope all of you are geared up, your sleeves rolled up, your socks pulled up, and all ready to get cracking with today's session. Um, Feroz is going to be with us shortly. Let me check if he's already here. Yes, he is. So Feroz is going to tell us where the data that we're going to work on is placed today. Feroz, if you can put that in the chat and people can access it from there. Okay, if you can put the links in the chat box so people can access the data that we are using today from there. In the meanwhile, I will hand over to Khurram Khan. Khurram, please formally introduce yourself once again. I know I have tried to do justice with your with your introduction, but that was never never enough. So over to you, Khurram, and hope you're going to enjoy uh, uh, training us as well at the same time. Thank you very
Okay,
much, and over to you.
okay. Thanks, Harun. Uh, Mr. Harun Jan has introduced me with such a nice word, right? Uh, my name is Khurram Khan, as he pointed out. I've done. I have various uh, classifications. I have done masters in philosophy, business administration, computer sciences, etc., etc. As far as my professional career is concerned, I've been working with a university as an assistant professor to teach various IT and computer science related courses, right? And I have a training experience of about 20 years. My area of speciality is MS Office, right, and particularly MS Excel with the various levels, right from basic to advanced level, and then Excel, Service BI, etc., etc. Right. I've worked with so many different organizations. I've worked with banks. I've worked with uh, multinational companies, right? So, so that is my very brief overview. Uh, let's begin with mm, uh, one thing. Feroz, Feroz,
Yes,
are you here?
Khurram.
Okay. Uh, is the data is available to the participants? Uh,
Yes,
can they
just wanted to
download it?
share. Feroz, go on. Okay, I
Okay.
think Feroz facing some connectivity issues. So if you look at your chat, ladies and gentlemen, Feroz has posted a link to a Google Drive in our chat, not the questions box, the chat box. So if you see, there is this link available. You can share, you can click on this link or copy it from here rather instead of clicking on it. Copy the entire link from here, paste it, and you will get access to the data. Um, I think the name of the folder was training folder,
Folder. Yeah, the
Khurram?
training folder.
Training folder. So the training folder is available and which is also available to Khurram as well. So Khurram, you can take it on from here.
Okay, fine. In that training folder, you find three different subfolders. One with the name of the functions, other with the features, and the third one is the practice files. Right. Currently, just open the function folder, and you should see lookup and reference function file, a workbook. Open it, and in the third sheet, which is known as the lookup concept, right? So this I will briefly overview with. So if you can open this, right? Okay, in the meantime, let's take the basic idea about the lookup and a reference function. Whether it is HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, or the lookup function. The primary objective of this function is to get data from somewhere based on certain value, right? If you look at this basic table, you can see that there is a column with the name code, then we have the product, then we have a unit price. And if we want to fetch a value of the product or the unit price based on the code, right? It is just like if the university can get the record of a particular student by just entering his or her registration number. So the university official will enter the data into the system, only the registration number into the system, and he or she can get the data, the required record of that particular student. The same is the case with VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and the lookup function. So in this particular example, based on the value of the code, we can get the data of the product and the unit price, right? So this is one record, this is the second record, and so on and so forth. So if I use the VLOOKUP function, for example, say, let it be, for example, 20. So if I type 20 and if I want to get the data of code number 20, the product and the price, and the idea is very simple. So you must have learned it yesterday. So is equal to VLOOKUP is the function. Then we have the lookup value, which is in this particular example, it is resided in I3, comma, and then the table array, and from where the data is to be captured. For example, this is the reference C3 column E11, and from this, from which column the data has to be extracted, right? So in that case, the product is in column 2. Just type 2 and thus press enter. When you press enter, you will get the project, and the 20, the code 20 has a value of the product is equal to a project. Same is the case with this. So is equal to VLOOKUP, right? Then this is the right. So VLOOKUP, this is the VLOOKUP value, means find what we want to find I3, right? I3 value from where? From here. So this is the source from where to find this particular value, and if we find this value, from which column the data has to be returned. In that case, it is 3, right? So that is very, very quickly we have applied the VLOOKUP function. Okay, now there are few things that we need to uh, taken care of when we apply the VLOOKUP function. Okay, whenever we have to use a function, VLOOKUP function like this with no parameters involved, then the lookup range, that in that particular case, this is the source from where we want to get the data. The leftmost column, the data, the table has to be sorted with respect to the leftmost column, and that data, that column must contain a value which uniquely identify the row, right? In that case, the 10 is the code that uniquely identify the product and the unit price, this particular record, right? So this has to be sorted in an ascending order from low to high, from less to high, right? If that is the case, then we can apply this VLOOKUP function, right, without any other parameters. But if there is highly likely that if the data is not sorted with respect to the leftmost column, right, you can get the wrong data, right? So there is a problem. There is issue with VLOOKUP function if you get the data from this data source, and if it is not sorted with respect to the the leftmost column, right? So it has to be sorted. Now, if you look at this, the reason is why. If you look at this, the code 10 and 20, so there is a difference between almost 9. So we have 11, 12, 13, 14, and up to 19. So whenever you give a value which is either equal to 10 or greater than or equal to 10 but less than 20, so the range is 10 and 19. Whenever you get the value either 10 or 19, or you always get the value which is equal to printer and this. So right, check it. So I have 19. There is no value exist which is 19 here, but we have the value which is in the range of 10 to 19, and we always get the printer Similarly, if I get, for example, 39, in that case, so this is 30 and this is 40. So in this range, 30 to 39, whatever number I entered here, I will always get the value which is equal to rem and the 40. So that is the first part. So if the requirement is such that you want to fetch data based on exact match, then there is no need to sort this. So the requirement is only the sorting requirement is only mandatory when we use VLOOKUP function without any parameters, right? So the default is there are two types of matching criteria. One is the fixed match and other is the exact match. Right now, this is the uh, uh, it, uh, it is not exact, right? So it is approximate. In order to apply the approximate match, we have to use another parameter which is either true or false. I can use true. True means approximate match, and the false means the exact match. So if I apply, for example, this one, this is the exact match, right? It is false. And press enter, you see we have not applicable. 39 does not exist here. And similarly, instead of false, I can use comma is equal to zeros, not here, 3 comma 0. So 0 means the same as false. So press enter and you will get not applicable. So if I press 10, then it's fine. If it is 20, then still is fine. And if it's say 25, so it means that we are forcing VLOOKUP function to match it exactly. So if press enter, there is no record exist in this data source, so we have not applicable error. Okay, one thing more we can add it here, and that is that
I'm
at
sorry,
times
can
we
I?
don't.
Sorry, Khurram, can I interrupt here for a
Yeah,
second? I think
sure,
some
sure.
people are facing a difficulty in locating the files. I've changed the permission for all participants to access these files on our Google Drive. Please do not delete them. Right click on the file and download it. Otherwise, if you look at the handouts also, so Feroz has uploaded this particular file that you're working on, that Khurram is working on. He's uploaded the file as a handout. So you can download it from there as well. Okay. I think that should solve the issue. There were some individuals who were still facing an issue in opening up the file. So I think now everyone will be with you, Khurram. Sorry for this interruption.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Okay, fine. So this is the basics of the VLOOKUP function, right? The VLOOKUP function fetches the data from a data source based on a certain value, right? So that, and there are two ways of searching. One is the approximate and other is the exact match. And that is how we use this VLOOKUP function. Okay. At times we don't want to have like this. For example, if it does not match, we don't want this error message. So we can change this error message, right, by say no information, no data, right, with the help of another function which is known as the if error function. So let me use this function right here. This function is very useful because in some of the cases when we apply VLOOKUP function, right, and we get this data and uh, the values that we have get through the VLOOKUP function, and we want to sum it, right, we won't be able to sum it if these values contain either of the error. So in order to avoid this, there is another function that is used in conjunction with the VLOOKUP function that help us to modify this not applicable or any error. Either we can put 0 or we can put no data or any text that we want to put as far as the in place of this error message. Okay, let me very quickly give you the syntax of this, and this is what we have with the if error. So if error is a function that is used with the VLOOKUP function or any other function that may give you an error, right? So if error is the function where I will be using this. So then we have a formula or function somewhere here, right? If this give us an error, right, we want to put something, for example, we want to put 0. So I will be using this if error function in this VLOOKUP to remove this not applicable with either a string that no information or no data, right? So I'm giving using this here. So this is the function, right? So this is VLOOKUP. So I'm using if error. So if error. So this is the error, right? It means if this function will give us an error like this, which is not applicable. So instead of error, we are typing in the quotes because it is a string or it is a text. Just type no data and click enter, right? So this is one thing. Uh, okay, let me give you another tip that will improve the readability and understandability to the formula writing. For example, this is the formula, right? And I want to extend this formula. I want to, or I want to write the next part of the formula on the next line. So here is a tip: use Alt Enter. I'm pressing Alt Enter where after the comma. So Alt Enter. So in this particular cell, this is a formula I'm writing but it is extending to the other columns. So I want this to be in this particular cell, right? So it means now this is the if error. VLOOKUP function is this. And now if this function will give you an error, it will replace the not applicable with no data, or if it does not give an error. So what we will do, we will replicate this, we will rewrite this formula, control C, and putting it all over here. So let me alt enter and control V, and then close it. So it says, I'm using an if error function. It says that if this function will give you an error, so instead of error, display no data. And if this does not give an error, else part will be executed and the result will be shown. Let me press enter. So you have entered too many arguments. Okay, let me see. Comma, we have VLOOKUP. Okay. Is that okay? There's an if error, VLOOKUP function, and we have VLOOKUP, we have no data, and then, okay, fine. Let me check this one. Would it work? Okay. Okay, fine. No. So, in fact, I was using another method. Now, that is simple, right? If this function will give you an error, right? Replace not applicable with no data. Otherwise, just display the answer returned by the VLOOKUP function, right? So similarly, we can use this not applicable, just type if error. So this is an error, and if that is the case, if it gives you an error. So instead of not applicable, type no info. Or in this case, I'm typing a 0, for example. 0 means no data. So press enter, click enter, and you have a 0. Now look at this. If error function is a very, very useful function, and it helps you to modify the error messages. So in cases where VLOOKUP function return a value where these values may be summed by other functions such as sum function, and if the number contain any error message, right, it won't sum. The sum function will not be able to sum these value, right? So in that scenario, the if error function is very, very useful. I hope you have understood the VLOOKUP function. VLOOKUP function with if error function. If you have any question, you can say, you can ask, right? And I'm giving you just a minute for this. If you have any question, Feroz, do we have any question? Not yet. Not yet. Okay, fine. So that's it. Let's move forward. So one thing is clear. VLOOKUP function, if you know the VLOOKUP function, you know the HLOOKUP function, because the only difference is between VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP is that it is a VLOOKUP is applying on a vertical data, and the HLOOKUP is applied on the horizontal data when the data is laid out horizontally, right? So that is the only difference. Then there is another function which is known as the lookup function. Right?
Khurram, sorry, my interrupt, Khurram. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting again. There's a question from Aksa Khan. She's saying, sometimes I use the VLOOKUP between two Excel sheets, and it gives an error, spill error. So if you can address that.
Spill error, what sort of an error? The name the error, please.
He's saying spill.
Spell
I haven't
error.
seen this error before. Spell, no spill. Okay. I don't know. Aksa, sorry, Feroz, if you can unmute Aksa and we can hear from her what exactly she wants.
Aksa, please raise your hand so I can unmute you.
If it is a spell error,
you're saying spill, hash spill. But have you ever seen an issue with using VLOOKUP across sheets or across
no.
workbooks?
No, I haven't. Okay, maybe Feroz, kindly take a note of it. I will look into and I will see what that error is. The question is that between the sheets, between the workbooks, when we use VLOOKUP function, you get the spell or spill function. That is the question, I guess. If that is the question, I will look into and I will let you know. Okay, fine. That is the summary of VLOOKUP function, right? Okay, let open this file, which is I'm only discussing one function, which is the match function, and match function is very, very interesting function. Just open the index match sheet. Maybe I will discuss the index function later in this session, right? But there are certain issues because there are I need to discuss the addressing mode first, then I will come back to the index function. But before that, I can there is a function known as the match function. So very, very quickly, I will go through this match function. So let me, okay. So what does match function do? Match function is from the category of mm, uh, reference functions, right? It returns the relative reference of a lookup value. Now, what does it mean? For example, if you look at this employee code, we have employee code, we have name, we have department, we have designation, and we have basic pay. I will use the match function with the VLOOKUP function to address one of the very common problem. And the problem is, at times, if we want to say insert a column in between this table, right, our index will be disturbed, right? So I want to control this. So in order to do so, we have a function named match function, which is very useful in this particular scenario. Now, what match function does? So for example, I have a name. Let me copy and then paste it here. This is the control C and this is the control V. So this is the paste. So what I want to know that in this particular array, in this particular range, name exists where? In which column? For example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 columns, right? So what I want to know is, I want to know that name exists with reference to this range in which column. So we can see that name exists in second column. So let's see, may I get, or let me just copy this, control C, and then take transpose. Okay, transposes, right? So this is transposes, right? So what I want to know, that employee code exists at column number 1, this is column number 2, this is column number 3, 4, and 5. So where employee code exists is equal to match. I'm using the match function, MSCH match, right? Hopefully it is, let me make a bit of zoom. Okay. Okay. Is equal to match. Now the match function lookup value, it means what value that we want to match. So in that case, we have H4, whatever in the cell H4 we want to see where, at what position H4 exists in this range. So let me select this. So this value exists in this particular range, and there are other parameters which say less than, greater than. So in this particular context, we will be using the exact match. So exact match. Just and enter. This should return 1. Why 1? Because employee code exists in the first column of this range. So press enter and you will see we have 1. So if I copy this formula, because all are relative reference, so there will be a problem with this range. So I need to fix this. So why I'm putting the $ here, I will discuss this in a bit, right? But right now, just put the $ between the column label and the row label and press enter and drag it down or double click, right? So you can see we have name on the second column, department on the third column, designation in the fourth column, and basic pay is in the fifth column, right? So what we can do, we can use VLOOKUP function with the match function in order to control the index. And with this, if we add or delete any of the column from this table, it won't affect the result. So let me check this VLOOKUP function. I'm using the VLOOKUP function, a simple VLOOKUP function. This is, we have value P111 for instance, right? So this is P111. P111, this is the value I want to search from this column using the VLOOKUP function, and I want to fetch the value of name, department, designation, and basic pay, right? So in order to do this, so let me delete this. So is equal to VLOOKUP. This is the value we want to find from where? From here. This is the data source, right? Then put the column again, it is the reference because I want to copy this. So again, we will discuss it in about a few minutes, right? And then the column reference is 2. So this is 2 and exact match, this is 0, and that is the case. Now, if this is, let me copy this down. So I will get not applicable and something like this. So I5 again, I need to use the $sign here as well. The $sign here as well. So this is the for this, and then if I copy, then I will get all LE. So what do I need to do? I click select 3 here. So this is the column index to get department. This is the reference, that is 4, right? Then we have supervisor. We have then is 5. So this is 5. And if you do this, we have all well done. So if I say Q111, okay, Q111, let me Q111, it looks fine. But what if I insert a column in between, and look at here, I have some confusion here, right? So with the match function, the index, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just whatever we have type here, with the help of match function, we can control the relative reference of these values, and whatever we do, either we insert or delete the column, the result won't affect. So let's see how we can do this. So let me just modify this formula. So this is the VLOOKUP function. This is the value we want to find from where. This is the source, and this is the 2. Let me take it to the next. Okay, this is the 2. I want, and let me alt enter. So this is the 2. I want to control using a match function. So column number 2 is name. So what I will do is I will use a match function, right? This is the match function. What we want to match? We want to match this name. This is I5, right? Whatever the value in I5 is to be matched with which range? This range. This range. So B3 colon G3, again, we need to fix this and comma, and we want exact match. Okay, and that comma, and then we have this. So let me explain this formula. We have the VLOOKUP function, very simple. This value we want to find, which is this, from where? From this source, right? And the column index, for column index, we are using the match function now. This is the match function. This is the I5. I5 means not the iPhone. I5 is the value which is name resided in I5. We want to match this value, right, that this value is exists at what location on this range, which is B3 and G3, B3 and G3. So it will give me 2. Match function, this function will give me 2, right? And I am using the 0 for exact match for the match function, and this 0 is for the VLOOKUP function. Now all things look set, press enter, and I have this, we have name, and we have, look at this. So although we have inserted a column, right, I can insert another column, right? So there is no difference as far as the output is concerned. The match function now will get the relative position. Now the value of department is from 2 to 3, 3 to 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Designation used to be 1, 2, 3, 4, but now it is at 6. So match function will return sys, and there will be no issue whatsoever as far as the output is concerned. Right? Any question on this? I hope not. Feroz, please check if there is any question on the match function. Feroz, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
If there is any question from the audience, please let me know. And if there is none, then I can proceed further. Okay, apparently, so there is no response from the.
There's only one query raised, and Farwa Abbas is saying, can you please repeat this function again? So Farwa, I would request that in the interest of time, if you could watch the recording. It's a very simple function. So using a match function instead of a fixed column number in the VLOOKUP formula. That's what he's done. So you can note the you can note this topic, and you can watch the recording very quickly. So, and I think other than that, there are no more. Muid Anjum is also asking the same question. Danushka is asking the same question. Please repeat the formula again. I think there are quite a few people who would confuse. So, Khurram, just the match bit, if you can very quickly share it with them and give them. In the meanwhile, while Khurram is explaining this, can others very quickly go and change the VLOOKUP formula themselves and add the match function in it? So those who have understood it could very quickly go and change the formula themselves, and those who haven't been able to understand it can very quickly listen to Khurram once again. So Khurram, can you please very quickly explain?
Okay, fine. What I will do is I will only explain the match function. That's it, right? So I'm deleting all of this. So I'm referring to. Let me Control Z. Let me explain it from here. So what actually I did, I'm using this match function in order to control the index. Initially, we were putting 1, 2, 3, 4 from which column we want to return a value, right? So in order to avoid this, I'm using the match function, and I'm only explaining the match function here. So I repeat, for example, I want to know that particular value, which is name, it exists in this particular range at which column, right? So this is column number 2. So this match function should return 2. Match function, this is the match, this is the name, this is the value that I want to look into, that this value exists at which location in this range. So comma, and this is the range. So what it does, it will check name matches with this in this particular range and return the relative position of name in that range. So, and again, let me click F4 and because we may have variation with the value, so I'm using the exact match. So what it does, it find this value which is name in this range and return the relative position of this value in this. So in that case, it should return 2. Look at this, this is 2. If I copy this formula down, right? So, okay, so it returned 3 because department is at location number 3, right? Designation is at 4, basic pay is at 5. And if we insert a column, right, look at here, we have change in the references, the relative location. If I insert here, look at here, 5, 6, 7. If I add here another column, this is insert, and look at here, we have the reference is changed. So 3, 5, 6, 8. It auto detect the column index. So that is the match function. And I'm using this match function in order to control the index value within the VLOOKUP function. I hope that answers that questions. And hopefully the rest have done it. I've applied the VLOOKUP function with the match function and add and delete the columns and see for themselves that there is no change in the output of the VLOOKUP function. I hope majority of you have done it. Okay, fine. So we have done another function, the match function and the error if error function. So we have done 2 important functions. Okay, for the time being, let me minimize or rather close this workbook. Right, don't save it. And now open a workbook with the name function. So where to find this? Don't save it, for example. So this is the training folder. We have 3 subfolders in it, one with the feature, then the function, and the practice files. We have the function, right? There are different workbooks with various functions. So we have the function. So this is, okay, functions. Open this. Okay, fine. So while doing the VLOOKUP function, I was referring to $sign with the addresses. So I want to give you why I put the $sign, what is the logic behind it, right? I hope everyone has opened this and it is visible to everyone now. Okay, for example, let me delete this. You can delete it as well. So what I'm doing, I'm deleting it, right? Okay, a very simple concept. Whenever I use certain cell reference of another cell in a formula or a function, what I'm doing, I'm addressing. This is the cell reference. I'm using the cell reference, I'm addressing. So there are 3 types of addressing: cell addressing or cell referencing. Cell reference, for example, I'm multiplying the value of C2, C4 rather, is equal to C4 This is C4. I'm multiplying it, right, with 3%. I'm doing it like this at the moment, right? At the moment, right? So I'm building up a scenario. So is equal to C4 multiplied by 3%. So what I get? I will get the value which is 3% of 2000. So C4, the value of C4 multiplied by 3%, and that is the answer, right? And what I'm doing it, I'm copying it, Control C, and then this and Control D. So this is what I get, the answer. So that is one. And in order, Control C and Control V. Okay. In order to say change the bonus rate, for example, 3% to 5%, what I need to do is I need to hard code this value. For example, here F2, and I need to put the 4 here, right? And I need to do this again, copy this formula down, right? So there is another alternative to this, and that is relative reference and absolute reference. So what I'm doing here, if you look at here, I'm using the cell reference which is C4, right? But I want to use the cell reference which is F4, right? Because what I want to do is whenever I change this, the value or in F4, it will automatically applied or multiply to the rest of the values here. So that I want to do. So in order to do so, I've delayed this is equal to C4. This is C4 multiplied by the value which is in F4, right? And I'm press enter. So my expectation is that when I copy this formula down, it should give me the values which is the multiply by 3% for the rest of the cells. But look at here, what I get, I will get 0. I will get 0. Now, look at the problem. Yesterday, you might have learned a keyboard shortcut, which is Control tilde. So Control tilde is used to show the cell content of the cells within sheets. So I've used the Control tilde, right? So look at here, this is C4 multiplied by F4, right? When I copy this is C5, that is okay, but this is F5. There is no value in F5. There is no value in F6. This is no value in F7, right? So what the value that is resided in F4, right? So what we want to achieve is that we want to use the value in F4 to be multiplied by the values of C5, C6, C7. So it means we want F4 here, we want F4 here, we want on all the rest of the cells, we want F4 instead of F5, F6, F7. So in order to achieve this, we will be using a referencing technique which is known as the absolute reference. So by default, when you copy a formula, when you're using a cell reference of another cell in a formula, the default is your referencing is relative, right? So this is all these referencing are relative reference. There is another type of referencing which is known as the absolute references, and absolute reference means that we want to apply the dollar symbols to both the column label and the row label. So F4 dollar F $4. The keyboard shortcut for doing this is F4 itself. So I've intentionally putting a value F4 in that cell F4 just to make you guys memorizing this keyboard shortcut. So in order to change the relative reference to the absolute reference, the keyboard shortcut is F4. So if you press F4 from the relative reference to the it will change to absolute reference. But there is another type of reference which is known as the mixed reference. In the later sessions, we will see how we can use the mixed reference. But at this point, only a reference that we have to deal with is relative reference and absolute reference. If you press F4 one more time, right? So this is the cell reference, right? If I press F4 1, so look at what happens to the cell referencing. It changes to mixed reference. In this case, the dollar symbol is deleted from the column label, but it's still there with the row label. If I press this again, the row label, the dollar with the row is deleted and applied to the column label. And if I do it again changes to the relative reference. So with the help of F4 keyboard shortcut, you can change between modes of the referencing. Now come back to the absolute reference. So this is the relative reference. I'm changing it to absolute reference. So $F, $4, this is the absolute reference, right? I'm right. So I've completed the formula, press control tilde again. Now copy this formula down again. So select this control D and we see that we have got all the value. If I change from 3% to 5%, for example, 7% for, now look, the values change. Now look at the impact of absolute reference. I'm pressing control tilde again and you see that what is happening. We have $for F4 all the way. So if I'm here, so this is still be F4. If I'm here, it is still be F4. So any question on this, please? This is a basic idea. And whenever you copy paste the formulas, so you have to be very, very cautious about the cell referencing, because when you copy paste a formula, the cell reference will change when it is in the relative reference. But when it is in the absolute reference, it won't take any effect. And majority of the issues, the errors that we get is because of this particular concept. I hope it's understood. Okay.
Hi, Khurram.
Yeah.
Khurram, there is a question from Osama Khokar, and he wants to know if we can also put conditions in it, like if value exceeds 3,000, percentage changes to 5,000. Sorry,
Sorry,
5%.
say it again.
He wants to know, can we also put conditions in the formula? If the value exceeds 3,000, then the percentage changes to 5%.
Okay, yes, we can do, and that is our next task.
Okay.
That is our
Osama,
next
please.
task. Okay, just overview this data set. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, hi, I'm back. Okay, hopefully you have taken this. Okay, so logical function, that is the name of the worksheet, and now we are try to learn the simple if function. And the question raised by Osama Khoka, this with the help of this function, we can deal with such scenarios. Okay, for example, if you look at this small data set, we have the sales, maybe, or maybe it may be basic salary or some sort of numeric value. In this particular context, we have the sales, and just assume that the boss has announced some sort of a bonus, but with one criteria, with one condition. And the condition is that any salesperson who achieve a sales target of 3,000 and above will get the sale bonus, which may be 3% or 5%. So let's say it's a 5%, right? And if the salesperson does not achieve this, he won't be eligible for the bonus, right? So let's try to do this. Okay, a very, very simple if function. So we know that whenever we want to enter a function, we have to type equal to sign. So we have if function, if, right? And look at the syntax in the screen tip, right? Logical test. So there has to be a criteria, the condition, or the logical test. Based on this logical test, remember one thing, the logical test, the result of any logical test is either true or false. Whenever we have to build a logical test, we have to use some sort of relational operators between the cells or the values. For the logical test in this particular case, in this particular example, that the bonus should be given to those who achieve a sale target of 3,000 or more. So it means we need to compare the values from E column with the value of 3,000. Right? So E7, it has to be greater than or equal to 3,000. So this is our logical test. If E7, the value in E7 is 3,000, sorry, 6,000, whatever the value is. So whatever the value of E7, it has to be greater than equal to 3,000. So this is the logical test, right? Or if that is the case, what we have to do, we have to multiply E7 by maybe 3% or say 5%. And if it is not the case, then no bonus. Let me write no bonus. No bonus. So it's very, very simple. If the result of this expression, if this logical test turn out to be true, then this action or this calculation will be performed. If the result of this comes out to be false, then we have the no bonus. So in case of true, this will be executed. If it is false, no bonus will be displayed. Let's see what will happen. We have no bonus. We have this. Okay, let me use the keyboard shortcut. So in Control D, this is So either we get no bonus or a number value. We get the number value where the logical test is true. So we have 6,000, we have 3,000. So it means this value is greater than or equal to 3,000. 2,500 is less than 3,000, 1,500, all these values are less than 3,000. So in this column, we don't have any bonus. Same is the case with here we have a value which is greater than 3,000, so we have this bonus. 1,800 which is less than 3,000, same is the case with the rest of the values. So this is a very, very simple concept of if function. So if function only evaluate a criteria, and based on that criteria, it will perform any action that we want to perform. It may be a calculation, it may be a something to display in a cell, something to put in a cell, whatever. So whatever action that we want to perform, we can, based on certain criteria, we use the if function. So this is the simple if function. Any question on this? Hopefully no function, no.
Nothing till now.
Okay, that's great. Now come back to the nested function. Now there is another concept, maybe Usama Khokar question, it is related to this, that we can have ranges of to give bonus to. For example, we may want to give bonuses to all of the sales team, right? Based on their performance. Maybe we want to give bonuses, something extra bonus to those who are high achievers. Maybe if you look at this table, we have two values, which is 6,000 and 7,000, right? And maybe there are certain who achieve the target, but they are not high achiever. We have value 4,000, 3,000, and there are certain values which are less than, for example, 3,000. So bonus for everyone, but we want to use one function, one formula that will calculate all the values. Now look at, go down a bit. This is the example. This is the example. This, right? This is at the top. Just go down in the row number 20 onward. You will get this thing, right? So we are discussing here. So we want to give bonus to, maybe the criteria is written, yes, this is the criteria. So sales criteria is that if the sale is greater than or equal to 5,000, so the bonus given should be 5% of the sales. And if the value of sale is in between, means it is greater than or equal to 3,000 but less than 5,000, the criteria, the result should be the bonus of 3% of the sales. If it ranges between greater than or equal to 2,000 but less than 3,000, the bonus is 2% of the sales. And if the value, if the sale value is less than 2,000, so 1% of the sales. So we have brackets here. So we will be using these criterias, right, in order to calculate this, to determine, to calculate the bonus here. So 5,000 is one criteria, 3,000 less than 5,000 is another criteria, 2,000, this range is another one, and this is another one. So in a way, we have 4 different criterias. So we can do this with if function, but this time we will be using the nested function. Now, what is the nested if function? The nested if function or the nested function means that we will be using the same function within the function. So if I'm using if function within an if function, within an if function again and again, then that function is known as a nested function. So in this particular example, I'm giving you the demonstration how to build a nested if function. Very, very simple, right? Look at the logic, look at the flow, and you will be able to understand that how it execute the bonuses. So first of all, let it be first if function. If function. So first, the logical test. The logical test, the of highest order, which is if the sale value is greater than or equal to 5,000, the bonus should be 5% of the sales. So if E7, value in E7 is greater than or equal to 5,000, then what we should do, we multiply the value of sales which is in E7 by 5%, by 5%. So that is if the case is this, if the logical test is, so this is our first criteria. If the value of sales is greater than equal to 5,000, this should be the bonus. Now, comma. I'm putting the comma here. Just assume that if it is false, it means the value of E7 is less than 5,000. So what should we do? We will be using another if function. I'm pressing Alt Enter to move to the next line within the cell, and I am writing another if function. If function. And this function, I'm checking the value of E7 greater than or equal to, the second is, I guess, let me if check the criteria is okay, 5,000, 3,000, okay, 3 to, okay, let me go back. Let me rewrite this. Is equal to if very, very quickly E7 greater than or equal to 5,000, right? And then E7 multiplied by 5%. So that is the first case. And then we have Alt Enter. And then we have another if E7 greater than or equal to 3,000, right? Then in that case, E7 has to be multiplied by 3%. So multiplied by 3%. So this is the second criteria. Now look at here. It means the value if this condition turned out to be false. So we have one thing is clear, the value of in this cell, which is E7, is less than 5,000. If the value is higher than 5,000, we would have been here, right? So it simply means the value of in E7 is less than 5,000. That is why we are executing this if statement. Now, if this is true, this will be executed, but if it is false, then we will be using an other if function. This is the third function. This is the third nested level, E7 greater than or equal to 2000, comma, E7 multiplied by 2%. So these are the three conditions we have, three criteria, right? And if this is true, this will be executed. If it is false, it will move to the second if. function. If this is true, this will be executed. And if this is false, it moves to the third statement, third if function. If this is true, this will be executed. Now, look at the last one. There is no need to use another if function because we have only four criteria. If these four criterias are the result of these three criteria are false, then the last one calculation has to be E7 multiplied by 1%, right? How many? We have opened the brackets 1, 2, 3. So at the end, 1, 2, and 3. So as many parentheses which are open, so we need to close it down. So this is the nested if function. If we have multiple criteria to deal with, right, based on multiple criteria, we want to select some of the actions or some of the calculation. This is the way to do it. One rule of thumb: if we have four output, we have four conditions, we can use three if functions. If we have 10 conditions to deal with, it can be we can have 9 if functions to deal. We can use 9 if functions. There are 64 nested levels. So in Microsoft Excel, if I want to use if function, the maximum function if function, I can use it 64 times. So this is the function. Now we have the value. Look at, we have 3000, and if we drag it down, what I will get something like this. Control Z. Let me use this scenario, this, and Control D. So this is 5%, this is 3%, sorry, 2%. This is 1%, and so on and so forth. So any question on nested if? Yes, Firoz, if there any question on this?
Not yet, but we'll give about
Okay,
5 seconds.
guys, just use this criteria, right? Instead of calculation, use this criteria, right? Write a nested if function to rank this salesman as rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, and rank 4. If the sale is 5,000 or more, the sales will be ranked 1, then rank 2, and so on and so forth. So rank these salesmen, and you have a minute to do so. Just do it and let Feroz know that you have done it. Okay, hopefully you have done it. Feroz, kindly check, verify from the audience that they have done it.
Yes,
You can raise your hand.
there are two participants. They have that they have done it. Yes,
Okay.
another one. Puram, there is a question from one of the participants, Abdul Rahman. He said there was a time he had to put up 15 to 20 nesting levels. and he had to do it for multiple arrays. And he wants to know if there is a simpler way to do that.
Okay. Yes, indeed we have. Instead of this, we can use the VLOOKUP function in order to do so. In the VLOOKUP function with approximate match. So in the approximate match VLOOKUP function, you can deal with as many criteria as you wish. If function is useful when we have to make 2 or 3 criteria. We need to perform some calculation based on 2 to 3 criteria. But if the requirement is such that we have to make multiple calculations based on multiple criteria, then the answer is the VLOOKUP function with approximate match. Right, maybe let me see if I have one example within the VLOOKUP function. Let me check, and if we have one, right, I can, okay, for example, yes, this is the case. The file is lookup and reference function, right? And this is the example. VLOOKUP1 is the name of the sheet, right? We have two different examples here. The first example, again, we have the salesman here. We have the sales here, right? And this is our criteria. This is the criteria. Now, instead of calculations, we are just putting the value from this column, right? So these value may be some calculation, maybe percentages, it may be anything, right? But this is one thing that we can do. I'm just giving you is equal to, just to demonstrate to you what I meant. VLOOKUP value, this is D3. I want to get the bonus amount from based on this value. So 900. Then we have, this is the source, right, from where I want to get F4. So make sure that the range is fixed, comma, and then from the second column is 2, and approximate, so I don't have to use a 0 or a false. Enter and just drag it down, and we will see the result is we all get. So 1800 falls somewhere here in between 1000 and 2000. So this is the answer. And based on this, we have just discussed it earlier, that how to use VLOOKUP function if it is an approximate match. The table has to be sorted with respect to the leftmost column. So this table is sorted with respect to leftmost column. So in a way, we get the brackets here, the ranges here, 0 to 999, whatever value which is in between 0 and 99, the answer is always 50. The value between 1000 and 1999, the outcome should be a 1000. So this is, so you can extend to this table to as many a condition as you want. So this is maybe the answer to that question, right? So Feroz, no question?
Not yet.
Okay, that's great. Now let's move to another important part. Okay, this is the math function. Okay, one of the function So in the previous we have discussed the if function. Now there are other types of function which are also known as a conditional function. So based on certain criteria, we want to do something. Look at this data. We have this data set, we have region, we have salesman, and we want to sum value of from this array based on certain criteria, right? What we want to do is, for example, we want to uh, get the sum of sales of Lahore. So look at here, we have this region, we have one array here, we have another array here, right? And what we want to achieve is we want to get the total of all these values from this columns which are corresponding to Lahore. For example, we want to add this value, right? We want to add this value, right? Do we have any other Lahore value? Okay, we have these two values. We have these two values. So no other Lahore value. So what we want to do is we want to get the total of these highlighted values based on the values resided here. So we will be using the sum if function, right? So this is the pictorial representation of the concept that we want to achieve. So sum of sales of Lahore, right? So in a way, there are two functions. One is known as the sum if function, and there is another function which is known as the sum ifs function. There is a difference between sum if and sum ifs function is that sum if function take care of any one criteria, right? It can sum based on one condition, one criteria, right? But sum ifs function get the total based on either a single criteria or multiple criteria. So I will be using sum ifs function, not the sum if function here, right? So is equal to sum if rather ifs. So I'm using the sum ifs function here, not the sum if function, right? Now the important thing here is the screen tip. The screen tip will guide us, tell us the syntax, how to use this function. We have the first thing, the sum range. What does sum range mean? Sum range is a range from where we want to get the values to get its total. So this is the range which is known as the sum range in this particular context. So if you are using the sum f function and the argument which is the sum range will be this one. So this is the range. So this is the range. AF3 colon AF14 is the range which is known as the sum range, right? So we want to identify these values based on certain criteria, and we will get the total of these highlighted values, which is in this particular range. Now the comma, the second, the criteria range. Now the criteria range means where the value Lahore will be. So in that case, the criteria range will be this one. This is the criteria range from where we want to check with LHR. So comma, and we have in inverted commas, we need to put LHR. This is the criteria. So this is the simple one. Name range, this is the sum range. We need to identify these values from this range, and then I need to check this criteria, which is Lahore, in this particular range. If the value of this any of the value of this row is equal to Lahore, then this value will be identified and sum it later. So in this case, we have 4 values of Lahore in this particular region. So if I press enter, I will get the total, which is equal to 10, 20, 30, 30, 80, and 90. The answer should be 90. So we have 90 here. Right? I'm giving you a minute to calculate the sales made by Mr. Kamran. The value of Kamran and the criteria range in that case is this. Do it. You have 1 minute to do it. Feroz, let me know when they have done it. So it is 7:41. 7:42 will be the deadline to do this task. Okay, Feroz, if there is any question in this minute, I can try to answer those. Yes, Feroz, is there any?
Yes. What is the difference between some if and some ifs?
I've already tried to differentiate. Some if function will deal with only one criteria, one and only one criteria, some if function. But some ifs with an S, some if with an S, which is some ifs. Some ifs function is used to get the sum based on either a single criteria or multiple criteria. So that is the difference between some if and some ifs. And the second difference is there is a syntax different. We have to use it differently. The sum range will be at the end. In the sum ifs function, the sum range at the beginning of the function. But in the sum if, the sum range is at the end. So these are the two differences. Okay, I hope it is 7:42. 1 minute is over. How many have done it? Come, Feroz?
A lot.
A lot. That's wonderful. Okay, now let's move to this. Now remember, whatever I have achieved here, I can achieve through some if function. But what about here? I cannot achieve the result of this question with the help of some if function. I have to use some if function. So what is the question? To get the sum of sales by Mr. Kamran in the city of Lahore. So I have two criteria. One is Kamran, one is Lahore. So how many we have? That is one. Let me change this to another. Right? Okay. I think that will be okay. Okay. So do we have another with this criteria? We have Lahore, we have Kamran. Okay, that is another. Okay. Do we have another Kamran? We have Kamran, but Islamabad, Gujarat, and then okay, fine. So in that case, we have two instances where the salesman is Kamran and the region is Lahore. So there are two criteria, and based on these two criteria, we need to get the sales of these two values and get the total. Now look at here how we can do this. Is equal to sum ifs, sum range is the same. This is the sum range. This is the sum range, comma. Now we have the criteria range. Which is the first criteria? That is Kamran. Kamran is in which range in this range. This is our criteria range 1. And what is the criteria? Criteria is Kamran. Just type it as Kamran. This is Kamran. Right? This will get the answer of this question, sum of sales by Kamran. So this is the answer. If I close this, so this is the answer to this question, the second one. But now I want the sum of sales made by Kamran in the city of Lahore. So the second criteria range is this one, because the LHR, the value of the second criteria is in this range. So this should be my second criteria range. And what is the criteria? Criteria is inverted commas LHR and close. Right? So this is the criteria range 1, and this we need to find in this range the value of Kamran. Same, this is the criteria range 2, and we are looking for LHR. If these two criterias are met, right? This is true, then the value will be identified, and at the end we will get the total of the value. Now we have Lahore, we have Kamran. The conditions are true here, so value will be identified as this. Then this is false, this is false, this is false, this is false. All are false. This is false and this is true, but it has to be true here as well. Same is the case with this. So we have only two instances where these two conditions are correct here, right? In this range, we have Kamran. In this range, we have LHR. So this is the case. In corresponding name ranges, we have two values identified. And if I press enter, I should get answer equal to 20. So that is the answer. Right? Is that clear? Everyone? I hope yes. Now,
Forum, there was a question. Basically, it was a query. It was Abdul Rahman, I think. He wants to know, can the criteria be the self-fill color?
no, no.
It cannot.
We have to
Okay.
write a VBA function for that, the user-defined function for that, or we need to use certain add-ins,
Okay.
right? So the sum, we can write a UDF, the user-defined function that will achieve this purpose, criteria based on cell color, right? But in Excel, there is no such functionality on the basis of which we can get the total like this based on some color. Yes, but we can write a function, a user-defined function, which can answer that question. Okay. Now, here is a task, a 1-minute task. Use the concept of relative reference and absolute reference. Get the total of Lahore, Islamabad, Gujranwala, Faisalabad from this data set. You have a minute to complete these two tasks. Use the sum if function to get the total of this. So at 7:50, you should have the answers by then. Okay, in the meantime, Feroze, is there any questions? Or
Yes,
all of
there is a
them will try?
question. There's a
Huh?
question from Muhammad Anas Khan. He wants to
Mhm.
know, can we sum the number of hours worked in the payroll if that's in decimal? Like he wants to know if the numbers are in decimal,
Mhm.
can we sum that?
If the numbers are in decimal,
Yes. Like 4.5 or 7.9. 7.9
okay,
represents 7 hours, almost 8 hours.
right. For example, 84.50 pesos, for example, so
Yes.
90.70 pesos. So he just want to add the pesos. That his query is. If that is the case, yes, we can, but we need to build a logic for this. We can do that, right? But there is a way out. We have to make use of multiple functions in order to achieve this.
Khurram, there are a lot of people who are done with the task.
Okay, good, very good. So let's move forward and let me tweak this. Let me tweak this and delete this one, or rather move a bit down. Okay. So now the report generation. Now what you need to do is just delete the formulas, whatever you have done here, delete this formula, right? And let it be moved to one cell up. So what I'm doing is we will be developing a report based on the salesman. Now, for example, here in this particular cell, we may have a drop down list, right? And in that drop down list, we should have only these three values: Kamran, Salim, and Nasir. And if we select from the drop down list any of the salesmen, either Kamran or Salim or Nasir, the value should get changed, or we get, say, the performance of a particular salesman in these regions. So that we want to achieve. The first of all, let develop uh, or insert a drop down list. There are two ways to uh, insert a drop down list, right? But I will be using a simple one. Maybe tomorrow we will deal with the second option. I want to create a drop down list in this cell, only in this cell, right? So one of the topic is data validation. So I'm doing a part of data validation here. With the help of data validation, I'm creating a drop down list here. So my objective is that from this drop down list, there should be three values, which is Kamran, Salim, and Nasser. And if I select, then this table should be filtered with the sales in the respective region that reflect the sale of either Kamran, Salim, or Nasir. So first of all, let's develop a drop-down list. Select the cell in that case, which is AK2, right? Then after selecting the cell, click the data tab. Then we have the data tools. In the data tools, somewhere we have data validation. In the data tools, we have the data validation. If you click it, we will discuss this thing later in detail tomorrow. But one thing from here. Click the data validation. This is 3 tab. First tab, which is setting. We have the validation criteria. In this criteria, we have any value. Right now, we can allow any value. Right? This is select this, and we have somewhere here the list. Select this list. Right? When we select this list, this become active, and this is the source. Now there are two ways to fill this source. One is that either we can type it, just Kamran, Salim, Nasir. But there is another alternative to it. Instead of typing, we can use the values somewhere in the cell range. For example, I want to use these values, these 3 values, right, in this list. The source is click this button, right? It collapses, right? Now select these values, these 3 cells, right? We have this reference, we have click this one and click OK. When I click OK, your drop down list will be created. Click OK and you will see we have a drop down list here. If you click, here is a drop down button on the lower right corner of this cell. If I click, I have Kamran. If I can select Kamran, I can select Salim, right? I can select Nasir, right? Now, you have 4 minutes to complete this task using the sum ifs function, right? With, I'm giving you a hint, using the absolute reference that will create a formula, function. Whenever you select any salesman from this drop down list, it will filter the result or get the result of that particular salesperson. So you have 4 minutes to do it. Okay, in the meantime, so we are left with 3 minutes. If you have any question, you can ask. And in the meantime, try to do this.
While others are trying to complete the task, can you repeat what you just walked through?
Okay, let me try to take a review of what we have done or what we have covered so far. Okay, we have taken a review of what VLOOKUP is, right? The basic idea behind the VLOOKUP. Then there are certain things that we need to look into when we using the VLOOKUP function. Then VLOOKUP function we use in 2 different ways, either with the approximation or with the exact matching strategies. When we have to use or when we will be using VLOOKUP function with approximation, then the requirement is the data source from where we want to pull the data. That data set has to be sorted with respect to the leftmost column, right? So that is the requirement to get the correct data from the data source if we are using the VLOOKUP function with approximate match. Then we can use the VLOOKUP function with the exact matching strategy, and in that case there is no need to sort the data. So that is the two a slight difference between these two strategies. The first strategy, the approximate match, that can be used for to solve so many different issues, problems, right? It is a wonderful feature, very powerful feature. Then we discussed the if error function. The if error function is error handling function with the help of which we can change the error. We can replace the error either with a text or the number. In some scenarios, when we use the VLOOKUP function or any other function, and by applying those functions, we get an error. So it is Excel don't allows us to get the total of that range that contains an error message. So what we can do, we can use if error function to replace errors with the zeros, so that we can get the total of a range that contain error messages. So then we discuss the match function. We have seen that what is the utility of the match function. Match function gives the reference a position of a given value within a particular range, and we have seen that how we have used with the VLOOKUP function in order to handle a problem, that whenever we use a VLOOKUP function and the data source, and if the table is inserted or deleted, the index column is disturbed, and we get the error, or maybe the wrong output. So we have used this thing. Then we discuss a very important concept of cell referencing, which is relative and absolute cell referencing, and we have seen what utility it has. The most of the function, the errors involving the copy paste of a function is because of this concept. If you properly utilize these concept of cell referencing, then it is very handy, and your result will be correct always. Then we discuss the logical function, only the if function and the nested if function, and we have seen that how we can implement it, how we can use it. And then we have used the sum ifs function, right? So sum if function is a function that is used to get the total or the sum of certain values based on certain criteria or criterias, right? And we have seen, we have applied few of the uh, functions here. So this is the task that I think, I hope majority of you have done it. So somebody who hasn't done it, right, this is the task. This is a tomorrow task that you have to do. So for example, complete this one, right? So if you look at here, complete these incremented rate base revised page. Basic pay is the you need to do this, right? So these are the some of the criteria. Complete these cells by putting appropriate formulas. Then we have ranking, we have done it. Same example with the nested if, right? So this is the criteria, right? Basic pay category. So you need to look into, you need to complete this. Then we have the math function. So complete this as well, right? So this is the task that you have to perform. Or maybe I can give you some other task. Uh, then I have okay. Okay, for example, if you could delete this, and this is some of the relative accountant problem. So we have the discount matrix, you have the payment made. If you have done the payment within this time frame, you will get this sort of discount, right? So apply an appropriate VLOOKUP function to get the discount rate and complete this. So this is another function. Then let me get okay, rest is the same. Fine. So in the VLOOKUP1 worksheet, complete this. This is your task 1. Then don't save it. Then we have in the logical function, you have 2 tasks to perform. Get the incremented rate. The question is here. That is the thing that if basic pay is greater than or equal to 30, tax rate is 20%. It's 30,000 or less than 30,000. Let it be. If the basic pay is greater than or equal to 30,000. So kindly modify this thing. If basic pay is greater than or equal to 30,000, tax rate is 20%, or else is this, right? Then revised basic pay, calculate this one. Same is the case with here. If the basic pay is greater than or equal to 30,000 and this, so you have to do this. So complete this and also complete this, right? If you select one of the salesperson, so your table be populated with the data of Mr. Salim. Right, so that's it for the day. 6 minutes past 8. So,
Khurram, can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, I think they're all professionally qualified accountants. Well, most of them are. So if we
Okay, fine.
ask them to use the tax slabs of salaries, the income tax slabs for salaries to calculate the tax rates, or come
Okay.
up with a salary tax calculator, I think they should be able to do that. It's a very interesting thing. There's a
Okay.
there's a fixed percentage, and then there is a fixed amount, and then there is a fixed percentage applied on the remaining amount. So let's suppose if you're earning 100,000 rupees a month, on the first, I mean, that's just an example, on the first 50,000 rupees you pay an X amount as a fixed amount as tax, and on the remaining 50,000 rupees you pay a certain percentage, and the cumulative amount is your total tax. So can we ask them to prepare a salary calculator? I mean,
Yes,
then
we
they
can.
have all the functions, they've done all the functions, so I think they should be able to, as level next, or as a bonus, I think they could go back and prepare this.
Okay. Yes, that's a good option. That's a good option. And I think they have all the weapons with them as the functions are concerned. Use these functions and develop a salary calculator on the basis of the suggestion that Mr. Harun Jan has just given you. So I think that is the better option. So there, I guess there are 2 tasks. One is this, complete this report generation, and the second task is uh, develop a salary calculator based on if function and etc. So any question on that? Feroz, is there any suggestion from the participants?
Zara is here suggesting that we should have some common data.
Common data.
For the salary calculator.
Okay, I've just, as Harun pointed out, that for example, 100,000 may be the case, and we want to get the tax calculated, right? Maybe on 50%, on 50,000, maybe there is no tax, right? But for the next 50,000, there is a variation. So you can do that with the use of if function. It's a simple if
In
function.
fact, I mean, what we're asking is to prepare a salary tax calculator. So I should be able to put in any amount whatsoever, and your formula should calculate the tax payable on that amount. Any amount.
Yeah.
It could be 1 lakh, and I could put in 2.5 to 250,000 rupees. I could put in 1 million rupees, and the tax calculator should give me
the exact amount of tax applicable.
Okay,
I
let
think
me.
our colleagues
Okay.
from Sri Lanka and Bangladesh will have to use their respective tax schedules, but everybody from Pakistan can go onto the income tax ordinance on on FBR's website and pick up the latest tax rates from there and use those.
Yes, and we can make this problem a bit interesting as well, that we can use certain cell references to be incorporated in the sales calculator. The ranges are present, or the percentages are in the cells. We may change the ranges, for example, 5% to 10%, right? So we can use the cell ranges as the percentages to be used for the salary calculator. So whenever there is a change, you just change the value within the cell, and your salary calculator will calculate it accordingly. So make it more challengeable then.
And for anybody who completes this task before the next session tomorrow at 6 o'clock, we will send a special gift from the ACC office to them. So beginning of the session tomorrow, we will ask you this question. You have first 10 minutes to claim the special award. And if you're able to do that, I mean, you get a special gift from us.
Okay, I think let's call it a day then. I think the problem is understood, the task is understood, right? And the motivation is there as well. So I wish you all the good luck for the task, right? And let's call it a day. Thank you very much, Harun. If you want to say something, your concluding remarks for the day.
No, I think foot on the gas. I think that's what you've done today. But tomorrow
Okay.
and the day after is going to be even more intense. And I
Yeah.
would suggest everyone to be fully prepared and go and revisit the recording for today's session if you like. Yeah. So I think it's very important that you practice what you have learned today. Otherwise, tomorrow when you go to your workstation, when you're actually doing this in real life, it'll probably be very difficult for you to remember all that you've done. You'll not have time to look at the recording at that time. So it's better that you practice it now to make it perfect. So good luck to all of you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And goodbye from us.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, recordings have been updated in Drive, and I'll ensure to put the Excel file for the non-6 digits participants in the handouts tomorrow. So when you guys join in, you can download the recordings file for the session held yesterday and today.
Okay, should I press the yes button?
Yes.
Okay.